Welcome, I'm Allison Graham, and if you like what you see, please share on social media or visit my website to book me for your next conference.
I think is often missing from the conversation that we're having is the people experience. What is the human interaction that happens? That experience will determine more about your business and your long-term sales projections than anything else. And yet, as companies, we very rarely ever figure out what are the people who are going to the event going to do before they go, when they're there, and after they leave. And so that we can actually drive business. Especially when we're trying to teach people how do we connect better as humans with that face-to-face marketing and that in-person influence as opposed to just hiding behind a computer and being online. It's harder to train the people to actually teach them how to interact with our prospects than it is to have something that's a really shiny, blinky thing that we think will magically turn somebody into a new client. And I know that it's very difficult to take somebody who is not really talented at interacting with people and who doesn't have the confidence, because I was that person. Okay. Thank you all very much. So I got the advice that 80% of success is just showing up. We've all heard this. The rest is simply what you're showing up for. And I'm going to call it, I think it's bull. Absolute bull. I think just showing up at an event is a very good way to become very busy and not profitable. And so let's walk through this and look at it from the perspective of how a business relationship actually develops. And so if every relationship starts from a point of being completely unknown, and we know that our ultimate goal is to create a loyal referral source and a client. So if this is where we start, walk into an exhibit, walk into a trade show, there are people who we maybe we have no idea who they are, complete strangers, and our goal is to end up over here. What often goes wrong is that people will misinterpret the fact that over here, when we're unknown, we're just trying to connect. But instead of focusing on connecting, they will go into sales. And we all know that guy. And I know a guy named Brian. I don't know Brian that well. But I know Brian from a Williams Coffee Pub lineup. You may have different coffee shops. It's not a Starbucks. It's where you actually go and sit and there's a lineup and then you have your food delivered. And just one day I'm sitting there. I just want a coffee. There is nothing on my forehead that says I need help or I'm underinsured. Nothing. But I turn around and I see this fellow and he makes eye contact with me and I say hi. And he says, hi, I'm Brian, and I sell insurance. And he whips out his card. I'm like, whoa. Well, Brian, lovely to meet you. Let me get my black extra caffeine right now. Don't think much of it, and I leave. About 6 months later, there I am. I'm at my local business club, waiting for some people who happen to be late, just sitting there in the big comfy chairs by the fireplace, and in walks this fellow, and I make eye contact, and I say, hi. And he comes up, he says, hi, I'm Brian, and I sell insurance. And he whips out his card again. I'm like, I think we've met before. This is not a good way, but there's a classic example of the schmarmy guy who goes from complete stranger and thinks he has the right to potentially figure out if he can sell you insurance. But you notice the big gap in between. So let's walk through this process, keeping in mind the fact that we need to show up, we need to speak up, and we need to follow up. And if you are in an industry that requires high trust, which I believe you are because people are counting on you, and their exhibits and everything else, you do not want that to be your personal brand. So there are people who we know. We're known to them. They're known to us. It could be either be positive, it could be negative, or it could be just neutral. No big deal. So if we want to go from here over there, the next thing we need to focus on is what I like to call creating a mini bond. And to lay the foundation to figure out, in a second I'll go on to the next step, how we can start moving people towards and closer to this loyal referral source favorite client. So when we show up, we want to show up in the right way.